it's Thursday, June 23rd, 2022. Good morning. I'm Andy Johnson. Welcome to the program. This is AM Prime here, how we kick things off around here at WESN. Let's tell you what's happening this morning. We're going to start in a moment with Mr. Nigel Romano. He's the chairman, and Mr. Ian Mitchell. He's the CEO of the National, that's the company that does food production in Trinidad and Tobago. We get to them in a minute, the National Flour Mills. Given the increase in flour prices in the country, they say it's between 33 and 35%, but the NFM is talking about how they are taking steps to sort of mitigate the impact of that on citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. We'll get to them in a moment. Also, we're talking with two ladies in the final part of the program after 7. The Human Resource Management Association of Trinidad and Tobago, they have a new program they want to introduce us to. Their guests, their members, Antonia Ferreira, as well as Kimberly Chan Budram. We'll talk to them in a moment. In the center of the program, again, we're talking with two ladies who they built, and it was erected a couple of days ago, a new monument marking emancipation in southeast Port of Spain. Of course, we'll share with you the numbers for COVID-19 and other stuff. We'll take you around the region. We'll tell you the stops we'll make as we go along the program this morning. So that's coming down the pike in the next hour and a half. So let's get to the discussion going with Messrs. Mitchell and Romano on the question of the NFMs. Well, I would say they're put in this situation where they have to increase prices because the price of wheat and flour has gone up. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Andy.
Good morning.
All right, so Mr. Romano, let's start with you. I know you've been talking about this for some time. Since even before the war in Ukraine, when the question of wheat prices was being bandied about going up, and we would discuss the situation as to what was possible and what was not possible, what the NFM would likely be doing, how you intended to take steps to sort of mitigate the effect of that on the population of Trinidad and Tobago. Let's get to where we are at this time on this day.
So you're quite correct. As a result of the pandemic and the disruptions in supply chains, we saw the price of wheat go up from as low as $5.90 US per bushel at the start of 2021, and it ended around $9. And as a result of that spike, we actually increased prices in January. We delayed for as long as possible and increased prices in January. But not as much as that increase from $5.90 to $9, but somewhere in the region of between 17 and 19%. And we focused on doing what we could to improve our productivity, improve our efficiency. We also quite frankly accepted a lower profit. I think we made something like $2.7 million after tax, and Ian can correct me if I'm wrong, in 2021. And then when we were looking forward to a normalization as countries started to open up, as the supply chains were freed up and returned to some level of normalcy, we had the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. And that caused two things. One, given all the sanctions on Russia, the price of fuel has skyrocketed. I think it was over $120 last week. I think it has gone back down to somewhere between 100 and 110 and 115 this week. But that caused the price of transport, of course, to go up. And given that Russia and Ukraine account for 29% of wheat exports, that caused the price of wheat to skyrocket. And the price on the Chicago Board of Trade increased by as much as 64% this year, from January to May. It went up by as much as 64%. We looked at the situation and we decided we had to ensure that we secured supplies of grain to ensure that the people of Trinidad and Tobago would not be facing a situation where they couldn't have flour, produce bread, doubles, etc., etc. And we were able to secure purchases up to the end to enable us to produce up to the end of 2022 at our normal production levels at a price that was 49% higher than we had in January. So that's what led to the need to increase prices. If we did not increase prices, we were looking at losses north of $40 million for 2022.
All right, so Mr. Mitchell, let's bring you in then. What is it like managing in a situation like this where I suppose you have to go along with the decision of the board to reduce the impact on consumers? Therefore, is it correct to say that the company is carrying a burden that is not what it wants to be doing, but maybe that's your social conscience, that's your sort of commitment to something?
Yeah, so interesting question, Andy. We spent a lot of time doing the analysis. So firstly, I mean, and thank you, Nigel, for articulating the issues as clearly as you did. You're talking about a situation where there are a number of moving parts. And we felt that we needed to analyze everything. First of all, look at what we were doing internally to see whether there was anything more we could do to keep the company in some region of profit, if even it was marginal. When we observed that the costs of producing flour started to head in a direction where it was actually more than the revenue we were able to generate, we had no choice but to start to come up with scenarios and to start to work on numbers that would try to get us to a place where the business remains profitable. So yes, a lot of work went on in the background. We looked at all of the factors, and what we tried to do, because you would notice the numbers, there's a very big difference between 49% and 33%. And so with the costs going up by 49%, we still felt that if we did everything right in the organization, and I must say that the entire team at NFM has been fantastic, really open-minded and all stakeholders. I mean, looking for ways that we can do things differently, reduce costs throughout in all different areas, introduce continuous improvement initiatives and so on. And at the end of the day, we felt, listen, if we are able to increase the price of the flour products by 33%, we can still keep this business. And it's not just the fact that we need to be profitable, but we need to be able to generate enough cash flow to be able to pay the bills and, term I like to use here, keep the lights on to make sure that we can pay salaries and meet commitments to our suppliers and so on.
But can you give us a sense of what are some of those things that you felt you had to do when you say to do what was required to keep operations down, to keep costs down and so on? Right. To what extent you can give us a sense of what some of those things have been?
Right. So all discretionary spend we looked at. There are a number of initiatives. So for example, there is a certain level of facility upkeep. There's a certain level of discretionary spend, and I don't want to go into all of the details that we would typically engage in, that we felt, you know what, we would cut these things out until times get a little better. In our factories, we took steps to minimize waste throughout. We also took steps to ensure that we were running all of our processes in the most efficient manner. And those things made a very, big difference. One of the things that we didn't talk about before, but even as Nigel mentioned last year, when we were just marginally profitable, we had engaged in discussions with the union so that even though we had to change the hours of work during the pandemic, our employees worked those extra hours without the usual overtime pay and so on. So there are a number of things that we have done coming through the COVID-19 pandemic up till now to really keep the costs in the organization as low as possible. So we felt with everything we were doing, the 33% increase across flour products gave us that buffer, or it gave us what we needed to ensure that we could continue to generate the cash required to keep the business operational.
Yeah, and these things don't negatively impact on any operating systems. You know, people talk about health and safety and security and optimum performance. You're not leaving anything sort of to chance in a case like that.
Yes, so health and safety and product quality are non-negotiables. I mean, we recognize that we have the top flour brand in this part of the region, IBIS, and our customers, they are not going to forgive us for a product that does not meet the high quality standard that it has met traditionally. And we are very, very, we take that responsibility very seriously. So product quality, non-negotiable. Food safety, non-negotiable. Health safety, security, non-negotiable. But other areas where we feel there's an opportunity to keep costs as low as possible, we went in there and we were as, we tried our best to try to keep those costs down.
And some of that would go down in the column of probably what you call in the business discretionary spending.
So for example, I mean, you're really pushing me, Andy. So for example, there would be the typical events that we would do for employees and so on. And we've had to curtail those as part of our engagement and the way that we continue to build family and so on. NFM is a very family-oriented organization. So we've not had any type of company function in a very long while. Stuff like that. I mean, I don't want to go into the inner runnings, but there have been a lot of cuts, and our employees have understood.
You have an understanding bunch.
Yes.
Mr. Romano, I see you want to come in here.
Yeah, I want to emphasize that this is not done. This is continuous improvement. And the focus here is on improvement. Working with the teams to ensure that we, as Ian said, we reduce waste, we improve productivity. We have a team that is engaged in ensuring and understanding that they know that the people of Trinidad and Tobago are depending on them to produce flour at the most profitable and most efficient way possible. And it's not done. I don't think it's ever done. It's always a work in progress. And one of the things we're looking at right now is upgrading the plant and equipment so that the production facilities become a lot more efficient, and we reduce the cost of production in those elements of the process that we control. And I think it's important to understand. So this is not just about, I mean, quite frankly, about parties and events. This is about operating the company as efficiently as possible, while ensuring that every team member is engaged.
And they are. You don't have to have these pep talks and bringing in sort of motivational people to get staff to buy into what would be the exigencies of the situation.
Well, I think that helps, but more importantly, the leadership team are the ones responsible for engaging with their individual team and talking to each other across, so that everybody understands the role they are playing and how important that role is, from the messenger right up to the CEO.
Yeah, and this is not particularly tough stuff, Mr. Mitchell. You don't have to go into your toolbox and pull things out to try and get by.
It is not. I wouldn't say it's not tough, Andy, but I think the team here makes it a lot easier because we have a bunch of employees who understand the company very well, and they're very committed to the responsibility that they have, which is not just to do a job, but to feed the nation. So when the tough times come around, they're very easy to talk to. We have spent, just this week, up to yesterday, we've spent time talking to the employees, explaining the situation, and the people are actively asking, okay, what next do we need to do? That's the type of workforce that we have. So yes, and you know, those continuous, and exactly as Nigel has said, all of those projects are continuing. In fact, we have a team that looks for projects that will bring about step improvement in performance. And the point of the matter, and one of the things that I think we need to focus on a bit, is one of the areas we felt we're not going to compromise spend is an area where we are investing in projects that would bring about performance improvement. So there has been some investment in new equipment. We are going to continue to invest in new equipment because those things are going to drive the per unit costs of production down. They're going to help us to continue to improve the quality of our products, introduce additional food safety and so on. And those things we will continue to invest in very heavily. But while we are doing that, we have to be churning out more and more performance out of what the assets that we already have.
Is it, I'm searching for a term here, is it the horizon that you're looking at in terms of the elasticity of what you're doing now to keep the operations going, and there may come a point where you have to do a rethink and go back to the drawing board, Mr. Romano?
But when you say rethink and go back to the drawing board, I don't understand. What you mean?
To say, well, what you have in place is not meeting the needs that are required to be met. So you're working with margins that are narrower than you expect. You're not spending discretionarily and so on. How long that can hold out without having to go the full tilt and charge people what the cost of production is.
I understand what you're saying. Okay. We are going to be continually becoming more efficient in the production process. And hopefully by the end of the year, this thing doesn't escalate to some kind of World War scenario, because that is going to be catastrophic. But once things settle down and our conversion costs are held under control, we believe we will be able to deliver a quality product at a reasonable margin. We are confident about that. The upgrade in the packing equipment and that kind of stuff would also help.
All right, and when we spoke last, it was on the basis of the question of the increases in the price of wheat, and people were talking about, they said that we've been for a long time talking about alternatives to flour out of wheat, and we talked about what the intentions were with prospects about having joint relations with Guyana, all the fields that they have, that, there were these discussions about us in Trinidad and Tobago working to utilize some of those fields to grow alternative crops, to make flour from alternative sources. Is any of that coming closer to being realized, given where we are?
I'll let Ian answer that, because we have been really doing some research on cassava in particular, looking at both Guyana and Ghana. So Ian, you wanna?
Yeah. So, Andy, yes. So we have in fact done quite a bit of development with cassava. We've also been looking at one or two other root crops, and so far the results have been promising, and we feel that they are products that we can bring to market. The challenge we're having at the moment is that all of those things actually, when processed and converted into flour, costs more than the actual wheat flour. So you're faced with a situation where there's this perception that if we switch, and while we may check the box that says food security, we have the food grown here at home, but the cost of cassava flour, I was having a chat with someone, in fact doing an interview yesterday, and they were quite shocked when I mentioned that cassava flour is 3 times as expensive as wheat flour, and that's wholesale. By the time you convert it and blend it and so on, it's probably going to be a little bit more than that. Sweet potato flour is no different. So, those are things that I think there's going to be a future. You're going to see some things from us coming up as we get into those areas, and we try to stimulate some growth in those areas. But we have to be cautious in terms of our expectations that those things would allow us to bring the price down.
Right. So the people who are advocates for those kinds of alternatives, and you call the two products there, did you hear a lot of people increasingly talking about cassava and sweet potato? You see, they don't know what the end result will be, that to process these things, to make flour out of them, would cost, you say, 3 times more than wheat?
At this time, that's the cost.
The point to note, Andy, and for your viewers as well, is that you're looking at agriculture on an industrial scale. You have to be able to produce quantities that we would need reliably over and consistently over time, so that the supply of flour of the input cassava is assured, the quality is assured, and the small farmers that we are dealing with are not able right now to do it, and that's why we're looking at Guyana and Ghana, where you have bigger acreages that we could. But again, we'll have to do the due diligence and ensure that whoever we contract with can deliver a reliable supply. This is what wheat gives us. It's reliable. Big farmers, they have a process. We have the Chicago Board of Trade. We know what the prices would look like, all that kind of stuff. It's not an easy shift.
Right. And well, part of the bottom line is that even if it becomes feasible in terms of volume, if we go and we get into these partnerships with Guyana, for instance, or Guyana and Ghana, the question I think Mr. Mitchell was making, that still the processes as they exist today as we speak, would render the production at higher costs than what is workable with wheat now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that just
But the point is that if we get to the industrial scale and can access or procure the raw material at a lower cost, it may be possible, but we don't know. We'll have to continue to do that research.
yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you very much. We're going to have to leave it there, Mr. Romano, Nigel Romano, and Ian Mitchell, Chairman and CEO, respectively, of the National Flour Mills. The issue is that, well, a lot of what is happening is I want to say tentative on what the situation is now. They're looking at ways to continue in the business, to be turning a profit. However, reduce that is going to be while they're looking at alternatives as the cries about that continue to rise. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Have a good
Let
day.
me just get this one before we go. So is there going to be, or there's going to be no Christmas party this year at NFM?
I'll get back to you on that, Andy.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we share with you the numbers for COVID-19, possibly the Newsday question and a response to the poll before we go forward with Shilan Peters and Maria Diaz, the sculptors who did that, constructed that monument, which now stands out there on the bottom of, what is that, Besson Street in southeast Port of Spain. An Emancipation Monument. Stay with us. Much more. That and much more on the other side of this break.
People of Blanchisseries and environs, something big is coming your way. Be part of the initial membership drive for the establishment of the North Coast Credit Union Cooperative Society Limited this Sunday, 26th June at 2 p.m. sharp at the Blanchisseries Community Center. Walk with $100 and your ID card. For more information, call 783-1971. Tell a friend, arrive early and walk with.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fanzone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
The best for your baby is at dbesttoys.com. We have the best strollers, car seats, walkers, feeding accessories, playpens, cribs, clothing, and the widest range of brand name toys like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Nerf, LOL, Fisher-Price, Cocomelon, Intex Pools, Amazon Fire tablets, HP and Gateway laptops, and the best bikes, scooters, skateboards, and ride-on. Visit us in-store at Southern Main Road, McBean, or shop online now at dbesttoys.com. That's dbesttoys.com. We have the best toys at the best prices.
There's a taste in the air everywhere. Feel the vibe cause it's something to share. Smooth, rich and creamy, you'll find it right here. Makes you smile, relax a while, it's fun and good cheer. Ooh, enjoy every scoop. Ooh, every taste will get you hooked. We have flavors that you love, a combination special. Come along, enjoy our treats. This is Uncle Pete's.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WASN,
the content capital.
people really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit?
Yes.
What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive, it is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, it's for all of us in public.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
We're on set with a strength and conditioning coach. His name is Mr. Gregory Seal, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what strength and conditioning means.
For instance, in the EPL or the La Liga, where it's so high, and I'm constantly hearing young people saying that they want to play in these leagues, but these leagues are demanding physically. So if you're not preparing your bodies for that early, you're not going to make it. But we also use it as a form of fatigue monitoring.
What's up, Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
Burning questions, urgent topics. Welcome back to One on One, the show where we tackle the most current and pertinent subjects that are affecting all citizens, where we ask the hard questions and have in-depth conversations. What separates One on One from other talk shows is that the conversation stems from a younger perspective on topics that affect the fabric of our society. One on One, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on WESN, Content Capital.
The Mary Immaculate Prayer Group and Friends presents its prayer breakfast on August 31st in aid of Monsignor Christian Pereira. The prayer breakfast begins from 9 a.m. at the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception. Cost is only $200. Come support the Cup of Gratitude in aid of Monsignor Pereira, August 31st.
Tickets are available at the parish office of the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception and the parish of Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
If you live with someone who's tested positive for COVID-19 and has to self-isolate at home, take care of them from a distance and reduce their movement around the house. Give them space, a designated space, and open those windows. If you have to be in contact, mask up, both of you. If you work, stay home from work and don't go out, not even to the grocery or pharmacy. And remember, no visitors allowed. Limit the contact to limit the spread.
The Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. Mission-based, people-focused, community-driven.
All right, welcome back to the program. Moments from now, we'll be talking with two sculptors, Shirlan Peters and Maria Diaz. They're the persons behind the erection of that monument at the bottom of Bessemer Street in Port of Spain a couple of days ago. It's an emancipation acclamation for us in Trinidad and Tobago. We'll get to them in a moment. They are in studio as we speak. But before that, let's get through the numbers with COVID-19. We do the Newsday question and responses. Let's start with the numbers, where we are this morning with COVID-19 in our midst. So there are the numbers, 155,233, the total recovered patients. Total active positive cases, 7,067. The death toll from COVID-19 thus far, 3,990. 166,290, that's the total positive cases reported since we began the counting on March 12, 2020. 237, the new positive cases reported in the last 24 hours up to the end of the day yesterday. And 112, that's the number of persons in hospitals in what is called the parallel healthcare system. So that's what it's looking like on this morning, on this day. All right, so the Newsday question and response, the Newsday poll. The question is, what changes, if any, you will make to your diet given the 33% increase in flour prices in Trinidad and Tobago? Well, we just had that discussion with the chairman and the CEO of the National Flour Mills as to what they're doing to keep the increase down, and not to the extent that it is possible given this increase in the price of wheat. But here are some of those responses. The problem is not local. The price of wheat increased internationally, plus freight rate gone up by 300%. Another response is this. Honestly, I'm not a flour person, so unaffected and unbothered. Chicken prices and fuel prices, however, was affecting me. Another response, removing this, well, they meant to say incompetent government from office. That is that person's view as to what will happen, what should happen. And the final response, don't eat flour, cassava, local blue dasheen, and sweet potato, plantains, arrows, yam, and green fig. Well, you just heard the gentleman, Messrs. Mitchell and Romano, talking about the difficulties and the not so plain alternatives these things present, because as we stand now, to do that, to use any of those alternatives will represent a 3-time increase in production and in production costs, and then that itself would affect the price that we pay. So there's much more work to be done there to bring in any of those alternatives that people think it's just a matter of making a switch. But those things remain for continued discussion as we go forward. So let's get to the matter at hand. With us now, the ladies in studio, Sheila and Peters, that's you. And you are Maria Diaz.
Yes.
All right, and they are the people from whose brain that monument come. I think we saw on the news last night the elder in the Emancipation Support Committee, who used to be the chairman, talking about it, Kafra Kambon, giving his high praises to the inspiration that led to that. So good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
All right. So let's talk about how this idea came about in the first place. So during the break, I asked whether you all were friends. You said you all have known each other for more than 10 years. You've been working together.
Yeah.
Let's talk with us a little bit about some of that.
Professor Ken Critchlow of University of the West Indies, he approached me informing me that the Emancipation Committee had this idea to build a monument, and he thought that I would be the rightest person for it. So he brought to me the idea.
So he was one of your tutors, your lecturers?
One of my lecturers at UWI.
He's a great painter, right?
I paint, I sculpt, I do everything in art. Yes, he is a great painter as well.
Sure, right.
He's a mentor of mine.
Yeah.
And so they had like elements of the design, but they didn't really have an idea of what they wanted. And he brought these elements to me, and I put together two miniatures to present for them. Yeah, maquettes for them, and from that they chose this one. And then the design was further tweaked, and that's how the sculpture came about.
Who did the tweaking?
I did the tweaking with their, we consulted and I did the tweaking.
All right, so how do you come in?
So I came in when we had to do the actual big grand sculpture. So we were both planning together how to source the materials and how to do the actual technical parts of it, how we're gonna mount it up and all of that. And then, we split the workload. So she did the male figure and I did the female figure. And so the male figure was done by her house, and after the female one was done by my house. And then we brought them over together and we finished it together.
All right, so you're looking at the
that's us working.
The finalization of it.
Yeah,
so that's both of you?
Yeah, that's both of us. Covered in as sculptors, it's not a very clean job. So you have to be able to get messy.
It's not a clean line of work.
Yeah.
But you compensate for that when you see what
oh yeah, of
comes
course.
out of it.
Product.
Yeah.
So you get your hands dirty all the time.
Oh yes, you have to. As a sculptor, you have to be okay with being dirty.
Especially the medium that we usually use, which is clay.
Yeah. Where do you get your stuff from? The raw material, that clay from? There's some parts of Trinidad.
Parts of
Better
Trinidad.
clay than others.
Yeah, we get them. We get it. But we get clay mostly from like Cuba, San Fernando, and we would import materials as well.
Yeah, you import some of it as well.
Yeah.
So when you're going down the highway and so on, you see
all those
that part
little
of Central
potters.
Trinidad.
Yeah.
Isn't it fabulous?
Just stuff with a bucket.
Sometimes I think about that with all the pottery that's been going on over all these decades and so on, there's still an inexhaustible supply of clay just in that part of the country.
Yeah, I buy most of my raw materials from Donnie's pottery shop in Shogunas.
Yeah. All right. So let's come back to the beginning. So Ken talk to you.
Yeah.
And then you talk to her.
All right.
And how long did it take, this project?
The actual sculpting took about a year. Now, it was really difficult because for anybody familiar with my work as a sculptor, my work usually tends to defy gravity. So when I presented Maria with this maquette of what we will do, she was like, how the hell are we going to do this? I even was trying to figure out how the hell are we going to do this? Yeah, far less to do it on a scale of 20 feet bigger, right? So it took a lot of time to figure out the ins and outs of it.
Yeah, it was a lot of...
The materials we would use, because we'd have to get materials that would stand up to the test of time, the weather and so on. But eventually it all came together.
Yeah, so from the moment of the beginning to where it was erected there, it took about a year.
Yes, it took about a year. But the planning phase it started about 3 years ago actually. So it started in 2019.
Yeah.
Was when the first initial commission came in.
Yeah.
Right, the proposal, sorry. And then from there was planning phase.
Yeah.
From then till last year.
Conceptualization and planning and starting the work and so on.
So we had a lot of planning before we actually started and got materials and everything. So that part was the more crucial part, I would say, was making sure that we had it, all together.
So let's talk a bit. So we're looking at it on the screen there now. Let's think about what it connotes, what it says, what's the message. Go first, Maria.
The piece is really a tribute to the Yoruba community, and Ms. Akia explains it as the Baba and the Iya, right? So it's kind of an homage to that Yoruba people. That's the
Yoruba village.
Yes, the Yoruba village. So that's around Laventil, Belmont, Mova, that area there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a tribute piece, and it doesn't really represent one person, because a lot of people are trying to figure out who
is that?
We sculpted, but it's just supposed to look like you and me, right?
Yeah.
So it's just that. It's just a celebration that of the history and the pre-emancipated people.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the pre-slavery people.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. What was it like watching it being launched and so on in those couple of days gone?
We still in shock. We still in awe. We can't believe that it's actually up, and seeing it up, is a great feeling.
Yeah. Did you all sort of come to when you're working together, when there are challenges like that? Did you have to be careful that your friendship wasn't impaired in the process? Did you all have arguments?
It was never
actually no. We never had arguments. We were always focused on the problem, and because we have such a great relationship together, like just in general because we're friends, it was easy to kind of get through those things, and then we kind of trust each other with like where I fall short, she would have better knowledge than me, and when she falls short, I would have better knowledge. So we kind of use that, and we kind of trusted each other to know, their part, to hold up their end.
Yeah. So. And both of you are or were students at UWI, or just both of you?
Yeah, we met in UWI.
Yeah. What's the process about working together on this? Let's first, before that, so you worked through a period in COVID-19 when there was lockdown and so on.
Yeah.
What was the impact of that?
It would have been a little struggle in accessing local materials. Also, the time that we had to work daylight hours, well, the day, because it was during curfew, that was that impacted a lot on us.
So that accounted for some of the time that it took from when you started to when you finished.
Well, for me, it was a bit convenient, I should say. I call it my silver lining because I actually have a regular 8 to 4 job. I work in the ministry. So, so the COVID lockdown kind of helped me out in terms of getting time to work on the sculpture. And also, you know, we had exhibitions going on, and my mom was in hospital at the time, so there was a lot going on last year, and I was kind of grateful that everything played out where I was able to do everything to the best of my ability.
At what point did you breathe that sigh of relief for you?
Last week, and the unveiling.
Because probably you thought that things could go wrong. You wanted to see it go up.
I think we still haven't really breathed that sigh of relief yet, but a big weight has been off our shoulders since.
Did the process teach you anything you didn't know, Maria?
Well, this was our first monument, so it has been a learning process since day one, actually. So I kind of. Because the materials we used were new. The entire process of building a 20-foot monument was new. Now we're sculptors, yes, but we build on a smaller scale, and we don't have to consider the elements. Yeah, we don't have to consider, you know, weather and how it holds up after 50 years, 100 years, kind of. So you have to keep that in the back of our minds, make sure, you know. It was just a lot. It was a big learning curve.
But so what do you do to sort of at least assure yourselves that of the longevity of it, the durability of it? What are some of the considerations you have to make? What do you do?
We had to research the materials that we used for one. We worked alongside Mr. Thompson, Jared Thompson. He is the assistant. Well, that was in the later half. We worked alongside Jared Thompson, the assistant engineer, city engineer. And City Corporation helped us with the base, the building of the base, and the erecting of the monuments. So he played a great part in helping us, you know, with the stability of it and making sure it's hurricane, earthquake proof, because we didn't have that knowledge.
That kind of,
I don't think we could have done it without them and their help.
Was he a sort of tough taskmaster?
No, not at all. He's a gentle giant.
Him and Andy Mohammed. They both were spectacular. They were really, they were really great to work with.
All the guys at the corporation.
So that's a positive for your experience with working with people in the City Corporation.
Definitely.
They have lots of negative stories about it.
No.
Oh, no, we have so many
and
great
they were
stories.
very efficient.
Very efficient.
Yeah, they got that up in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
And so we were surprised.
Wow. So about going forward, this is you see this as a kind of start for you all. So you all have a partnership now, a team that. What's next might be on the agenda?
This is the first of many more to come. We have a few more sculptures lined up to do, but I don't want to disclose them right now. Now. But apart from the sculpting, we both have exhibitions coming up this year. Maria's is in August and mine is in October, alongside my brother and sister-in-law, Sean and Noreen Peters. Because my family
in the same business?
So
you are from a sculpting family. Where did that come from?
Right.
You know?
My dad. My dad.
What's his name?
Kenneth Peters. Kenneth Peters. He's not known. He does his craft as a hobby, but we learned from looking at him and being around art. It was hard not to be an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you went to UWI to study
Yes, I went to UWI to further that education.
on that.
Mm-hmm.
To what extent you learned anything that you didn't know about Yoruba and the people, how they lived?
We
what they
learned
stood
a
for?
lot because I had no idea of that space, the Yoruba Square. I mean, I had no idea of the Yoruba Square and what it stood for, what that space meant. Even the community of what they called Yoruba Village, which would be Mova, Laventil, Belmont, those areas, I had no idea of the history of it.
So you had to sort of get a primer.
Right,
on those
yeah,
things.
yeah.
And how did that influence the work, Maria?
Sorry, repeat that.
Well, how did your knowledge of the history of the place that you're talking about, how did that had an influence on what the final product was?
I would say that because we were given kind of a direction to go with it, in terms of the design and what elements they wanted to have included. So if you look at the sculpture, you would look at and see certain symbols and certain things specific to the Yoruba. Also, we try to incorporate the steel pan and elements of Trinidad, and we kind of try to bridge the gap between Yoruba and Trinidad culture and kind of try to mend it together. So, I would say that.
Because there's a view that, our part of our national culture is influenced by Yoruba.
Yeah, specifically the steel pan. If you look at the female figure, she has the steel pan around her collar, and her earrings are steel pan sticks. So we wanted to bring that out as well.
All right. Well, you have been great guests, and this is a fabulous piece of work.
Thank you.
It's in some ways the beginning of things to come.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Maria
you.
Diaz and Ms. Peters.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
All right. Well, we will take a break. We have news in seconds from now. On the other side, we're talking some other matters we'll tell you about when we get there. Stay with us. This is AM Prime on this Thursday morning.
The Mary Immaculate Prayer Group and Friends presents its prayer breakfast on August 31st in aid of Monsignor Christian Pereira. The prayer breakfast begins from 9 a.m. at the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception. Cost is only $200. Come support the Cup of Gratitude in aid of Monsignor Pereira, August 31st.
Tickets are available at the parish office of the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception and the parish of Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
Seven is out. All day is in. WESN News on the hour.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
In this season, we talk more about health, wellness, and everything in between. I am so excited to share with you everything about health and wellness so that you can design the life that you've always dreamed of. Join me here on What's Up Doc.
What's Up Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Burning questions, urgent topics. Welcome back to One on One, the show where we tackle the most current and pertinent subjects that are affecting all citizens, where we ask the hard questions and have in-depth conversations. What separates One on One from other talk shows is that the conversation stems from a younger perspective on topics that affect the fabric of our society. One on One, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on WESN, Content Capital.
It may seem like the hardest thing to do right now, but we all need each other to wear a mask, wash our hands, watch our physical distance, and stay at home. We need you safe. Together we can make the difference. Together we can curb the spread of COVID-19. So let's be responsible in our actions. The Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. Mission-based, people-focused, community-driven.
We dare you to dream, to see beyond the struggle, to envision the possibilities, to live life with unlimited vision. Ferrera Optical supports you with complete eyewear starting at only $795. Let's make those dreams a reality. So book your visit via 227-7000, WhatsApp message 278-2878, or at FerreraOptical.com today. We dare you to keep going. Ferrera Optical says, don't limit your vision.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
FanZone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas, and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available. People of Blanchisseuse and environs, something big is coming your way. Be part of the initial membership drive for the establishment of the North Coast Credit Union Cooperative Society Limited. This Sunday, 26th June at 2 p.m. sharp at the Blanchisseuse Community Center. Walk with $100 and your ID card. For more information, call 783-1971. Tell a friend. Arrive early and walk with.
A reminder from WESN. We urge you to protect yourself and others from the spread of COVID-19. Stay safe by taking some simple precautions. Clean your hands often. Use soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rub. Maintain a safe distance from anyone who is coughing or sneezing. Wear a mask. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth. Cover your nose and mouth with your bent elbow or a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Stay at home. If you have a fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical attention. Following the above can help us all to help each other.
Welcome back to the program. Well, Antonia Ferreira is the treasurer and Kimberly Chan Budram is the education officer of the organization known as HRMAT, Human Resource Management Association of Trinidad and Tobago. They are our friends. They'll be talking about something they call the C-suite conversations. What is that? Well, we'll get to them. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning. Thanks for having us again.
All right. That's fine. So let's get to you, Kimberly. If you are the education officer, just open by telling us what is involved in the C-suite conversations.
So our C-suite conversation is centered around the future of work. Ms. Faria is the one who's leading the C-suite conversation, and it is actually an idea and an initiative led by Antonia. So I would allow her to give you all the details pertaining to this conversation and the program C-suite.
All right, and I think I saw a tagline saying that the future of work is now. Is that's your tagline for it, Antonia?
Well, it's the theme for this event. So C-suite is a series of forums that we're introducing to bring strategy to the table. One of the issues we have that we want to seriously address is this notion that HR doesn't bring anything much to the table, that they're just transactional and therefore, managing operations, hiring, firing, and disciplining, that sort of thing. So we want to expand the conversation and let there be a general agreement on what really is needed from a people management perspective to create the future that we want. The world has changed, it is changing, continues to change, and really it will be up to us to define what the world of work will look like, and HR will play a major role in that. So for our first C-suite conversation, we will be bringing some executives representing the core industries in the country together with the HR practitioners to discuss what that future of work will look like.
So who in industry disputes the importance of human resource management? If you say that there are people who say you don't bring anything to the table.
If you look closely at many of the strategic plans, the HR part is done at the end, after the fact. And that's usually because HR is not seen as a strategic element. You see the focus on the commerce, the finance. If you're in manufacturing, you're going to see a huge operational component, a huge marketing component. But none of these elements can be executed if you don't have, as we say, for strategic human resource management, is really, you want to have the right people in the right place at the right time. And somehow that part of the conversation gets shifted to last. And after we start executing, then we discover, we need to have a particular skill, or we need to have technology, and that technology requires training, or the strategy will actually take us global. So now let's start looking at what it will take to send our staff abroad, or how do we work in another country. Now you have people rushing to get tax laws, or you may say, I need to downsize or upgrade. That changes the design of the workplace, the size of the workplace, the scale of the workplace. A lot of components go into executing strategy. And so a lot of HR people themselves are also stuck in the mode of personal administration. This is some, 40, 50 years after the conversation started, that people management is more than just the paperwork, So it's a twofold conundrum where at the executive level, the organizational parts that make the money or make the, run the operations don't see HR as a true partner. And within the HR profession, you have many professionals who don't think that it is their job to understand the business itself, that they have to understand how the company makes money, understand how to read spreadsheets, that sort of thing. So it's an important conversation because, as I said, the future of work is going to look very, very different from what many of us who are sitting at the executive level were trained in as to how to make the organization work and how to execute strategy. So it's best that we restart the conversation with all the players at the table.
All right, thank you very much. So come back in on that then, Kimberly.
Yes, so we decided, and Antonia would have mentioned C-suite, and she started by mentioning that HR is often viewed as the people who recruit or hire and fire. So our last Hermat Says article in our column that just went by on Monday of this week, that was actually the first line. People see HR as non-strategic, but we recognize in the future of work, we have to consider all the partners. We have to consider hybrid work environment, the significance of technology being integral in how we move forward with the future of work. And Antonia also focused heavily on people management and how that aligns well with the strategy, how it changes the strategy or support in some instances the strategy. And that's one of the things that Hermat is looking for. So we're also very excited that in the upcoming week, we're going to be launching one of the great brand new certification called People Manager Qualifications. And she also mentioned that element of persons having to travel externally to get that training. And as you may already know, we are one of the we are actually the Caribbean partner who laces and issues the SHRM certification, which is internationally recognized best practice. And one of our board members presently and other past board members were in the top 100 persons when Trinidad was the pilot project for the SHRM certification. So not only today, Hermat has been looking at the future of work and looking at the partners and the international players. So we now want to tie that to the different industries and have the big players like Marlene Lewis, Nigel Batiste, Glenn Mahabir Singh, Matt Edhill, and some of those persons that we have on our panel for the C-suite conversation. So we want to pair the future of work from an educational perspective, the certification perspective from an international and local area to the persons who execute strategy, the CEOs, the C-suites.
Yeah, so that is what C means,
Yes, the C-suite, over time they have moved away from president and vice president and, executive, and they've kind of normalized. If you have a chief executive officer, we also have a chief information officer, a chief financial officer. So there has been a shift in the titling of positions to recognize that we have all these top thinkers. And so all those C's, they call them now the C-suite. But it is essentially, just a shift in focus on how we view the executive. So there is a CHR as well, a chief CHRO, a chief HR officer, but I can't think of maybe one organization where I've actually seen that title. More often than not, HR is positioned as a support to the C-suite and not part of the C-suite. So there may be a senior HR manager reporting into, say, a chief financial officer or a chief operations officer, but they're not evenly placed at the table as well. We expect that to change over time when we start seeing people management as a core part of the business as well, an equal player at the table. I mean, after all, we say people are the greatest assets,
Yeah, so
but we don't treat them like that when we can.
So there are companies in which the human resource manager, what's called the HR manager, is not part of the executive management.
They may be part, but they typically not at the same level.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they do have a seat at the table, it's in a number of instances is actually positioned as below. Not all the instances, but they may be paid a tier or two below the rest of the C-suite, you know?
Yeah. Yes. So you're going to say something, Kimberly?
No, I was just going to say, HR is often seen as an advisory role, and a lot of the times we are not included in the strategy part of it, as Antonia would have mentioned earlier. We're so focused on the personnel element of it. We are so much engrossed in dealing with the IR issues, the minor staffing issues, and the continuous day-to-day activities, the business as usual, but not often a part of the strategic planning or included. Normally, the planning is executed at the C-suite level, and HR is then communicated that plan and expected to staff the organization to support that strategy. Another perspective that we have been exploring or having conversations on in various circles that I would sit in is who are usually considered in the management or the executive management team for that C-suite promotion. And often if you have an organization of HR manager, operations manager, or accounts manager, finance, usually finance and operations are the ones who elevate into the roles of the CEOs and the C-suite. And HR continues to be that advisory to these C-suite or executive management roles.
So the part of the objective of these discussions is to change that kind of mindset which formulates executive management in the way that it is. Antonia?
Yes, a lot to contribute to the perspective.
Yes, yeah, and for that relationship to change, there has to be an understanding of really what are the people management elements strategically, and if the HR team wants to really elevate themselves into a core role in treating with that, they have to understand. That's why it's so important for us to have this conversation, because like I said, part of the issue is coming from the HR profession itself. There are many practitioners who don't think it is their business to know the business. And so we want to reset that by having them understand literally from the horse's mouth, as the saying goes, what is it that we're trying to do and what do we expect in terms of the dynamics of the workplace to change as a result of the ambition we have for the organization. Sometimes, like as I said, the best laid out strategy plan falls apart in execution because the thought that had to go into the people part of it came too late after the fact. And so you find yourself ready to launch and you can't launch because suddenly you don't have anybody who speaks Spanish or French or Portuguese, or you miss out on an opportunity because, you weren't able to ramp up your staff in time or upskill your staff in time to take advantage of a shift in the market. And so you find yourself on the back foot. Whereas if you bring this people conversation forward at the time of planning, you start seeing, okay, apart from getting the financing, apart from the equipment and the process changes, how does that affect the way that people will work and contribute to getting this new initiative off the ground? At the end of the day, if a strategy is to work, it is going to create a change. If your strategy does not create a change in the way the organization operates, functions, or where it operates or targets in the market, essentially what you're doing is just coming to work. And so just think about it. If the organization is changing, then the people element is going to change as well. Change management is a core area of human resource management. And then what we end up with is a lot of issues, and then you run to go bring some consultant who doesn't really understand the organization, who brings a cookie cutter model to try to fix a problem that could have been avoided if the HR component was included as a material part of the strategy development.
I want to ask either of you this. So we've heard about the ambition for what is called the transformation of this juggernaut called the Water and Sewage Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. Does this organization, your organization, know anything about what that involves in terms of what we're talking about here? Where is HR management in there? Kimberly, for instance?
Okay, so when we look at the what is happening, and I don't want to keep it directed to one particular organization, but generally speaking, when we look at the climate of HR and particularly stemming into the IR element of what's happening, keeping it focused to Trinidad and Tobago, we see a shift in a lot of the way in which organizations are staffing. We see a lot of the issues in terms of how the type of retrenchment and reorganization, because it's not always, because when perhaps we look at what the news will carry, they look at, how we restaff the organization, retrenchment and some of those things. But with the future of work and what is happening, we see value in the future of work, looking at what needs to be done in order for sustainability of organizations and how we need to reorganize our business to make sure that we have some level of continuity. I hope that answers you to some extent without me attacking or directly speaking about one organization, because being a part of the IR fraternity, I see similar activities happening in many organizations, some to the forefront and some coming to the forefront.
Yeah, all right. Well, that was brilliant, the way you put it. So these conversations are taking place, but there's this particular event that you all are leading up to. Is that correct?
Yes. So we're having the inaugural meeting. It's going to be our first in-person meeting in about 3 years as well.
Wow.
So we're excited about that. It's going to be a breakfast meeting held at the Hyatt Regency on July the 13th from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. So breakfast is at 7. The core event starts at 8:30 with the panel. We're very excited. Dominic Calpazard is going to be our moderator for this event. And just again to go over the panelists, we have Nigel Batiste of Republic Bank. We have Ronald Adams of the Atlantic LNG. Glenn Mahabir Singh representing the construction sector. We have Mark Edgell representing the services industries. We have Kimberly, help me out here.
Ariane.
Sorry about that. Yes. Ariane Hepburn Malcolm, who is representing media, and Marlene Lord Lewis, who is representing, of course, the back end of it. And you see, I am saying it as well, right? The back end part of it, which is the technology and the competencies. So we will be having as well representation from the ministries. I don't want people to miss out this important part, which is when we say we're bringing the C-suite, recognize that we have two sectors, public and private. So the equivalent of the C-suite at the public sector is also coming to the table, because at the end of the day, if we're really serious about the future of work in Trinidad and Tobago, national policy and support business frameworks and the environment in which we do business is a very, very critical part of that conversation. So we will be having our ministers, the permanent secretaries, deputy permanent secretaries and directors, heads of departments invited to the table as well. And at each event, we will have one of the ministries also give a keynote speech to set the tone for the topic that we're having. Yes, so we will announce the minister who is leading us off in a separate event.
So that's the minister of, what is it, public administration and so on?
No, well, I'll just give you a hint. In this particular topic, it came down to the framework or the competencies, right? Both of the core people side. So we're either looking at labor or education, and we will leave it as a big reveal to see which one we will lead us off with. But we do have a lot of excitement from the ministries to be part of this. Lots to share, They too are going through a transformation, and we tend to to think again, just like how we think of HR as just the people pushing paper. We think government, and we think the government is only involved in people pushing paper,
Right.
you know. But I mean, we would have seen some significant changes in the way government operates and the infrastructure that they're using to interface with us. The laws are changing.
All right, we're gonna have to go, but we're gonna have to go. But so what's the date again, Fred?
It's the 13th,
Yeah.
Wednesday, the 13th of July
Yeah.
at 7 a.m. at the Hyatt.
Yeah.
And you have the option of sending your entire C-suite team. It's just a little $2,800 for your six members of your C-suite team. So we're encouraging people to buy a table or two.
All right.
And come have that conversation. Have a little bit of food for the body and food for the mind.
All right. Thank you very much, Antonio Ferreira, the treasurer, and Kimberly Chan, the education officer of HERMAT, the Human Resource Management Association of Trinidad and Tobago. Let's give us the date again.
13th,
of July.
Wednesday, the 13th of July.
At the Hyatt.
At 7 a.m. at the Hyatt.
All right. Thank you very much.
And they can go on the website and our LinkedIn and Facebook pages to register for the event.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, just before we go, let's just tell you what's in the newspapers here. The Newsday, the story on the front page. Well, a big one. The former governor of the central bank, Jawala Rambaran, won a matter in the court challenging his dismissal in the with the coming administration after 2015. That's the front page with that story. And football, where we are with the national football in our contest with other countries on the back page. That's Trinidad and Tobago Newsday. Tobago, the budget must invigorate. The head of the Tobago Chamber saying that. The story about the situation regarding the Attorney General continues to dominate reporting everywhere, as in this case. On the back page, growing in the role, some cricket action there. So that means that's our broadcast for this morning. We want to thank you for watching. We want to thank our guests. I'm Andy Johnson. In about half an hour, we'll have news at the top of the hour, followed by today's edition of Talking Point with Shah Small. For now, thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.